What's up guys, to my first ever video on this channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys the ultimate setup guide for the F126 DLC. With all the metas, everything you need to know, what wing gap you should run, optimal tire pressures, brake bias, and suspension. And most importantly, how you can create your own setups and optimize your pace and quality in race to dominate your league races. Or if you're just a casual gamer, you can use this for your career also. Now let's jump straight in. Starting with our aerodynamics. Alright, so in the F126 DLC, you want to typically run a quite higher wing gap than usual in F125 because you get lots of understeer in these cars. And also another thing to point out is that with the straight line mode added, you can actually go a lot higher on the wing and get away with it. At tracks like Silverstone or Suzuka, you can run like a really high wing gap, like similar to this 40-10 wing. Or if you feel more comfortable with 40-20, you can do that. Or if you want to go lower, you want to have more oversteer, you can go 45. But again, like the wings don't really matter too much. It does matter a little bit on the battery because if you have more drag, obviously the battery works harder and stuff. But personally, I would suggest running around 35-10, and then you can tweak that if you want. Alright, next up, your differential. Now in this game, it is pretty much identical to last year's game, F125. Basically, what this does, all it does is just 100%, it makes it so that your car is a lot more understeer on throttle and stuff. But actually, on this game, if you wanted to, you can go a lot lower a little bit in quali. You can go down to 90, 80 on the on throttle if you feel like there's too much understeer when you get on the throttle. But usually, you'd always want to run 100% on throttle during the race so that you don't lose too much time and that your car feels nice and stable, because that's what you want in the race, so that the tire wear doesn't really mess up your race much. Now onto the off throttle. The off throttle actually, you can go pretty high on this because the cars in low speed, they're pretty oversteery. Like from personal experience, when I run the F126 cars in low speed, they get really oversteery, and it's like really hard to catch. So like, I'd recommend starting out with 25. If you feel like it's a little bit too oversteery, you can go up to 30. But I think 35 to an extent is a little bit too much, so I'd stick around 25 and 30%. Next up, suspension geometry and suspension. Suspension geometry, exact same as last year's game, F125, just left with left. You can go a little bit higher on the front toe, just if you want some, understeer or whatever in the quali. It ruins your tires, so I would not recommend it. Left of left is the way to go. Now suspension, 41 front suspension and 1 rear suspension is what I'd use for low speed tracks like Bahrain or Silverstone, and you really need that traction out of the corner. Now front suspension is always 41. Now the rear suspension, on higher downforce tracks, you can go higher up to like 10 rear suspension, maybe even 12, like tracks are like Australia. Now what this does, it enhances like under braking ability. Like you feel a lot more stable under braking, and in the high speed corners, it enhances your aerodynamic profile per se. Now if you go lower on the rear suspension, you feel a lot more good on the exit, and it just helps the rear tires grip up and get that traction out of the exit. So on Bahrain, like I'd recommend rear suspension always 1. Now higher downforce tracks, you can go up to like 10 or higher. Front anti-roll bar and rear anti-roll bar, these correlate to each other, so they work in tune with each other. Basically, I would not touch the front anti-roll bar if you have some rear anti-roll bar. That is because if you ran 10 and then ran 4 on the front anti-roll bar, they would mess your tires up and you'll get a lot more tire wear than everybody else. So I would not touch the front anti-roll bar if you have rear anti-roll bar. rear anti-roll bar. All this does, basically, the higher you go, more oversteer in low speed and high speed. And then lower you go is more understeer in high speed and low speed. Now in the race, you'd want to run like lower on the rear anti-roll bar, maybe even some front anti-roll bar at tracks like Mexico, where you really need that rear stability, because the rears overheat a lot. But yeah, I'd run 3 in Silverstone. You can go higher actually on the rear anti-roll bar in qualifying, just because it feels a lot better. And you just have like a lot more grip in the front tires basically, and it just feels a lot more better. Front ride height and rear ride height, I would keep the front ride height at 20. I would not touch this at all. Rear ride height, you can go higher to induce some more oversteer in the car, and like qualifying you can go higher up to like 44 or something. Now in the race, I would always go 40 or 41, just because it feels a lot more stable and that you won't spin out in the race if you go lower on rear ride height, sorry. And yeah, that's basically it for suspension. Alright, next up, brakes. Now for the brakes, the brake bias this year is a lot higher than normal. Now on F125, you can run lower brake bias like 52, 53 at some tracks. But on this year's game, you want to go a lot higher, because like it's very oversteery in the low speed. So like you'd want to run higher brake bias in the race, because it protects your rears and it also minimizes tire wear. So yeah, I personally run 57 or 58 in the race. Alright, tires. Now on F126, actually, the tires, you should run like max at every track, almost every track, because max feels a lot better. It also reduces overheating. These cars tend to overheat a lot more, so max is the way to go to protect the rears and get the most out of that rear grip. Because when the rear tires overheat, they lose a lot of grip, and it just makes it feel like a whole worse car, and also just gives you a lot of tire wear, excess tire wear that you don't want. So yeah, max for me, it feels the best. I'd run this at all times. Now, for instance, if you're at like Bahrain, you want a little bit more like rear grip, I'd say go a little bit lower. Don't go too much lower, because you're starting to get that overheating in the tire. Now in qualifying, you can actually go a lot lower on the front ride height, just because it gives you more grip in qualifying. But honestly, I would not touch the front ride height in the race. I would leave it as max. And finally, it is now time for an example lap. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please leave a like and subscribe, and enjoy.